Hey, and welcome back. Today we're going to do part 2 of my coverage of the Motor Muster in Greenfield Village in Dearborn, Michigan. That's Father's Day every year. Anyway, this year was a special salute to the cars of Mopar. That's the Chrysler Corporation. So we're going to take a look at some of the Mopar cars that were there with a special emphasis on the muscle car era. Anyway, let's just jump right into it and see some of the cars that were there. Let's start things off over in the special display area with this 1937 Chrysler Airflow. I've talked about Airflows before on this channel. This was a revolutionary aerodynamic design. This was wind tunnel tested with the help of wind tunnel expert Orville Wright. Yeah, that's the Wright brothers Orville Wright. Anyway, the public didn't really care for it and it was phased out after a few years. This next car is a real one-of-a-kind. This is a 1940 Chrysler Crown Imperial Special Parade car with extensive factory modifications. This was a special order and was the New York City official parade car for about 20 years. What that means is those pictures that you see of ticker tape parades down Broadway from just after the war through the 1950s, this is the car that you're looking at in those pictures. The car, of course, has an extended wheelbase, a special windshield. It was never really designed to be seen with the top up. People that have ridden in this car include Winston Churchill, Charles de Gaulle, Dwight Eisenhower, and many others. All right, so let's look at some muscle cars. Here's a 1961 Chrysler 300G. The Chrysler 300 started in 1955. This was Chrysler's entry into the high-performance market. In 1956 came the Chrysler 300B, the Chrysler 300C in 57, and so on. By 61, we're up to the 300G. This is a muscle car, so if we look around under the hood, we're going to see a 413 cubic inch V8 with Chrysler's cross ram intake. That's the dual intakes there. This made 375 horsepower coupled with Chrysler's TorqueFlite automatic transmission. Under that intake, there are actually dual 4-barrel carbs. Just a few of these were special ordered with optional manual transmission and modified intake to make 400 horsepower. From Dodge, we have this sporty-looking 1962 Polara 500. The Polara could be ordered with either a 361 or 413 engine, making actually a respectable 305 or 380 horsepower. The interior on this one's looking really sharp in the red and white. Anyway, the Polara was sized just below the full-size Dodge Custom, but the trim level was the highest that you can get above the Dart and certainly above the smaller Lancer. Chrysler really went out on a limb the following year in 1963 with an experimental gas turbine engine. This is one of the actual engines here. They made 55 cars. They released 50 to the public for testing, but then gathered them back up and destroyed most of them afterwards. Very few remain. Chrysler at the time donated one car and a spare engine to the Henry Ford Museum. This is that engine. All right, so let's skip up to 1968 with this Dodge Charger. The Charger was originally conceived a couple of years before this as a personal luxury sporty car, kind of to compete with the Ford Thunderbird. In '68, they had a wide variety of options from the 225 slant 6. Yeah, you can get a Charger with a 6-cylinder engine in it, all the way up to the 440. Although those triple 2-barrel carburetors, the so-called 6-pack, wasn't available until 1970. Here is the 1969 Dodge Dart. This has a 340 in there. The Dodge Dart started to become a little bit more sporty because it was a smaller car. This one is in swinger trim level. That's a 2-door hardtop with special swinger badging. This is 1969 after all. I've always liked the Dart swingers, well, because of the name really. Also starting in 1970, they dotted the I in swinger with a little flower. Anyway, the Dart was a smaller car, so properly equipped, they could scoot. Over in the Plymouth camp for 1969, here's a Roadrunner. The Roadrunner had been introduced the previous year as sort of a stripped-down, down-market version of the muscly GTX. And when I say stripped down, I mean it. In 1968, do you want FM radio? No. Do you want air conditioning? No. Do you want power steering? No. And the list goes on. They did offer a few more options in '69 when this one was built. There in the center of the steering wheel, you can see the Roadrunner. Beep, beep. Engine options were the 383, 426, and 440. Over at Dodge, they had their own version of the Roadrunner. They called it the Super B. Anyway, the Super B was just a little bit more upscale than the Roadrunner. It had a few nicer things on it, so it was priced higher. It didn't sell quite as well. Anyway, this one is equipped with the 3 two-barrel carburetors. That's the 6-pack that I was talking about earlier. And also the optional lift-off scooped hood. See, that hood isn't hinged. It lifts off. Next up, we have another Roadrunner. This is from 1970. This is a special version of the Roadrunner that was developed for NASCAR. It's called the Super Bird, the Super Roadrunner. It's easy to spot because of the protruding aerodynamic nose and, of course, the giant wing on the back. They produced roughly 2,000 of these, and about 1,000 are still thought to exist today. They were equipped with either the 426 or 440 engines, both massive engines. This one has the 440. That is a factory color, by the way. It's called Limelight. Mopar in the late 60s had a lot of fun colors, and the names were great. My favorite is Go Mango. You say it fast to get the pun. Anyway, this car was designed to take on the competition from the Blue Oval, like the Mercury Cyclone and the Ford Torino Talladega. Anyway, this one was restored just a few years ago after being parked since 1973. So there are some barn finds still out there. For 1970, Chrysler introduced the all-new E-Platform cars. The E-Platform consisted of the Plymouth Barracuda and this car here, the all-new Dodge Challenger. The base Challenger could be had with just about any engine in the catalog, but this one is a Challenger RT, the sports model, and it has the 440 engine in there, although the 383 was standard with the RT. Remember how I said the Dodge Super B was a version of the baseline Coronet? Well, the Coronet itself is becoming very muscly with the RT option package. This is 1970 now, and you can get the 440 Magnum engine, that's the Super B engine, in the Coronet RT. Although you don't get things like rally gauges with 150 mile an hour speedometer and things like that. 1970 has this front end facelift that they got. I always kind of liked that 1970s Dodge grille. There it is, the massive 440 Magnum engine. New emissions rules are on the horizon though, so this is towards the end of the muscle car era. Here's a 340 6-pack. Now there's a story behind this. Starting in 1969, the Plymouth Barracuda offered a performance option package called simply the CUDA. In 1970, all American racers special prepped 2 CUDAs to race in the Trans Am Racing Series. Plymouth then released an option package that mirrored the AAR Trans Am Race Prep. This is one of those, an AAR CUDA, so this meets Trans Am Racing Circuit standards. That includes the 290 horsepower 340 with 6-pack carburetor configuration that this car has. Here's another 1970 CUDA. This is the more standard one. I really like the trunk luggage rack and that top with the alligator effect on there. That is wonderful. CUDAs came with the not too shabby 383 as standard, although you could also opt for the 426 or 440 or the 340 with that AAR package that we just saw. This one has the standard 383, which is not too bad. Here you can see, compared to the Coronet, this is that wider E-body that's shared between the Barracuda and the Challenger. The body panels don't really interchange between the two. It's just the underlying platform that is similar. Compare that to this next car, which is the older B-body platform. This is the 1970 Plymouth Roadrunner. And I want to point out the full-length Roadrunner decal that runs from the rear quarter scoop all the way up to the fender. That's all the Roadrunner's dusties kicking up there. That's pretty cool. Insurance companies started to have premiums on muscle cars with the larger engines, and that really bit into their sales. Cars like this with the larger engine, the 440 6-pack in there, he would have paid a fortune in insurance. Roadrunner sales for 1970 dropped by about 50%. So insurance rates, upcoming emission standards, and NASCAR rule changes where race cars no longer had to be available through the dealer network really all conspired against their muscle cars. Still have the cool Roadrunner decal on there. Beep, beep. When exactly the muscle car ended is a matter of discussion, but it was certainly over by 74. Obviously still in full swing, though, in 1970 when this Roadrunner was built. Nice car. Next up, we have a 1972 Roadrunner. By 72, the 426 was gone. The 440 was still around, but with only a single 4-barrel carburetor and lower compression to deal with emission standards and unleaded gas. That would be gone by the following year. This car is equipped with the small block 340 that could still move the car along pretty well, and in a nice package too. The old 383 had been bored out to 400, but compression had been lowered just like the other engines, so performance was not as good. Hey, there's another Superbird. I'm just really kind of hitting the highlights of all the muscle cars they have here. This was a really big show. Over next to that, there is a 1970 Dodge Charger RT. I believe the colors here are Lemon Twist and Sublime. Both part of the whole series of high-impact colors that Mopar offered in the late 60s and early 70s. Like I said earlier, this year's show was a special salute to Mopar, especially Mopars of the muscle car era. So there was a actually fairly large contingent at the show, and they were kind of in their own little area, and there were a lot of them. The cars I've talked about, like I said, are only just a small part of what was at the show. Representing the tail end of the muscle car era, here's this 1973 Dodge Charger Rally, and over next to it, we have a very nice 69 GTX with all matching numbers, 446 pack. Let's go take a look at some of the non-muscle car Mopar cars at the show. 1963 Plymouth Valiant with the famous Slant 6. The Slant 6 was introduced in the Valiant a couple years earlier and gained a reputation for rugged reliability. This is a convertible and a Signant, which is the top-of-the-line Valiant for 63. The Valiant had been introduced in 59 to compete in the new compact car market, dominated at the time by the VW Beetle and the Nash Rambler. This car was direct competition to the Chevy Corvair and the Ford Falcon. The Valiant became a top seller for Chrysler and really helped them weather some rough economic times. One economy car that grew into a performance masterpiece, of course, was the Plymouth Barracuda, like this one here with the 340 engine. Yeah, I know I said no more muscle cars, but I just walked past another one. Anyway, besides, this one has a factory 8-track. Look at that set of 8-tracks he's got there ready to play. As I mentioned before, the Barracuda started to have a lot more performance packages, and 69 this year right here was the first year for the CUDA option package. 1959. The year that more is more really peaked. This is an Imperial. Not a Chrysler Imperial. Imperial was its own brand within the Chrysler Corporation this year. That roof you're looking at is stainless steel. That stainless roof with kind of the rear canopy looking thing was called the Silvercrest roof and was an option this year. You could also option swiveling seats. If you're a fan of a lot, this car will deliver it for you. Stepping back a few years, here's this 1948 DeSoto Custom. I think people sometimes forget that DeSoto was not really its own company. DeSoto was one of the brands under the Chrysler umbrella. They were just sort of phased out. There was really no need for Dodge, Plymouth, and DeSoto all sort of in that same middle price range. In the meantime, there were some pretty nice cars wearing that DeSoto badge, like this really nice post-war convertible. This one is equipped with fluid drive, which is actually not a transmission. It's a hydraulic connection between the engine and the clutch. It still used a standard manual transmission. All right, well, let's wrap things up with one of my favorite cars at the show, this 1977 Plymouth Fury Special Pursuit. This is running a Special Pursuit version of the Plymouth 440 and would have been the fastest production car made that year. This is owned by the Michigan State Police, and they brought it to the show here today. I'll let the officer explain a little bit about the car himself.
Everything. So RK, the Plymouth Fury K code with the E86, which is the 440 special cam dual exhaust federal emission V8. You had the special handling and the performance pack, which was unique under the production code A38, which not only upgraded the suspension and the braking system, the electrical system, but it also provided the option for the highest rated V8 engine.
This is the last of these special pursuit packages known to exist. This is the only one, which makes it super cool. So that was some of the Chrysler products that were at the Motor Muster in Greenfield Village in Dearborn. Hope you enjoyed that little sampling. Anyway, I think I'm going to do just one more part and try and get a good sampling of all the rest of the cars that were there, hopefully by next week. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a comment and like, or hey, why don't you go and watch some of my other videos? If you like this one, you're going to love the other ones. There should be a link right about there for some of my other videos, or you can subscribe. Anyway, there should be a link right out there to subscribe to the channel. And I think there's like a little bell that you hit so that you get notified when I release a new video. I'm not really sure how that works. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.